everyone, how are we all going? I hope we're all doing really well. Welcome back to Pommy and Oz. If you are new around here, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe. It does really help the world go around. We're just close to 1,500, which is absolutely unbelievable. So thank you so much for your continuing love and support. And obviously we've had a bit of a full-on couple of weeks, haven't we, at the Carlton Football Club. I mean, obviously, firstly, let's start with the bad news. Unfortunately, with the passing of John Elliott, Big Jack unfortunately leaves us. But I mean, there is no doubt, whether you agree or disagree with what he did at the football club, that his heart was always in the right place. And he was a primary driver of putting us in the heart of AFL folklore. So rest in peace, Big Jack, and hopefully we can get back to where he'd want us to be as a football club in the immediate future. Now, obviously, talking about that, we've had a few acquisitions, haven't we? So I thought, let's go through it. Now, the first one is Big Cooky. He came over from Geelong. Now, I'm really excited about this one. I'll tell you for why. What really excites me about this is the fact that this guy has come from two real heartland football clubs that have won flags, but also it was a sustained period of success for them. And I think when you talk about Carlton, I think sometimes as a fan base, and particularly as the media, they get clouded that finals is the be-all and end-all. For me, finals is great, right? Yeah, that's fantastic, but you want to be continually in finals because very few sides get into a final and win it. Few sides get into two finals and win it. Usually it's a sustained period, and what we want to do, especially when you look at the core makeup of our list, it's a list that says to you that it could be there for 5-6 years. And with good list management and good running of the internals, top teams have managed to stay in there just by acquisition of the talent. Now, Geelong, I'm not saying is the greatest model in the world, because obviously there's that joke that the dad's army, they stay old. But if you actually look at Geelong, they have a lot of young players coming through. Now, in my opinion, they don't quite utilise them a lot. You've got like Clark, who's about to leave at the moment, who I think is a very mercurial talent. And in my opinion, if I was running that football club, I'd want him to play. But they have got the next in line. The problem is they kind of are short-sighted by the finals, where I think a well-run club, particularly how Carlton has had an eye in the draft, particularly, and has got used to playing youth, there is a lot of depth there that just needs to really go up the next year. So I think Cooky's in a real good place because he's going to keep us stable on-field, off-field, which is very important. But he also knows how the inner workings of a club work. And I think little before, by the reports, we know by my own assumptions, he had his fingers in every pie. Even the reports state that. Cooky, by listening to him and by looking just at the research of what he's done, is he puts his aces in his places and he trusts people to do the job. He talks a lot about trust, he talks a lot about culture building, and I think that's a huge primary driver for why we haven't been successful, is because we lack the trust in each other, and we particularly lack the skills in the right areas. And that looks a positive for me moving forward. And that is something that really excites me with Cooky, because Cooky's also going to attract them backroom people. We know that he's a very coach-first type operator, which is super important, because you would say at the time over the last 5 or 6 years, particularly, the feedback has been that the coaches aren't fully supported, and we know Cooky is a coach man. That makes me very excited. Up next, obviously, there was Michael Voss. Now, Michael Voss, I know, doesn't entertain people, right? And I know it's not a get off your seat. But I will say one thing. I know some people will disagree with this, and that's okay. You're entitled to your opinion, as am I. But the process for me has done its job, and I'm impressed. Obviously, you'd like Clarkson. Not too sure about Ross. I did think that was odds on just by the way the media are, and then when I realised that the media hadn't got a clue because the club ain't leaking anymore, kind of fell off that wagon. But you can't force someone to do the job, and for me, all too many times Carlton have got a coach in that's probably not 100% committed. We've only got to look back at Malthouse, and I think if we break that down, he was kind of pushed out. He didn't want to leave Collingwood, and it was a great chance for him to stick two fingers up at Buckley and Eddie and take Carlton to the flag in their last couple of years of that list. And I think we got short-sighted by that. And I think Clarkson, again, he has been quite firm on his words that he wanted to take a year out. And there's no getting away from it. He's got a family. As a family man myself, it is quite hard when you miss things when you are away from home. It's a long time since I've been like that, but I remember it well, and it is kind of a thing, and I reckon there's no way you could teach him. I reckon he will miss coaching. I give it about 4, probably round 3 he'll miss it, but he won't know that unless he does it. And I think if we'd thrown money at him, and you hear about the luxury tax and Carlton having to pay overs, that would have also hindered, for me, the recruitment around him. And you look at the models of other clubs, it's having real stable, really good assistant coaches. And I think that maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I was heavily on the Clarkson train. I'm not going to admit I wasn't. But I can see the merits in that. And you can't force someone to do it. And I think Carlton did the right thing by sounding him out a few times. Because you never know where it is. You never know, especially with the way the AFL contracts work, of severance payments and terms and conditions on them payments. Think you never know. And he never seemed, I think the important thing is he never said it until the end that he wasn't. It was always coming through with intermediaries. And we've only got to look at Teague's agent. The guy hasn't got a fucking Scooby-Doo what is going on. So I think it was good. And Voss, what does he bring? Now, I'm excited about Voss because I think when you look at Michael Voss as the coach, he kind of was thrust into the position as a young man at Brisbane. And you look at that list, it was held together with sticks and straw. Back end, it was a decent ageing list, but they were littered with injuries. And he was wet behind the ears. And there kind of is an appeal to me when I was speaking to some Lions fans who remember that time well, that it was kind of done to appease the fans. There wasn't really a process. It was kind of thrust upon Vossy, you know, folk hero, club captain, legend of the club. And it backfired, and fucking hell, we've been there, haven't we? And I'll say this, David Teague, he can't coach. Michael Voss, many people said he can't coach at the time. But I'm more than happy if David Teague goes away for 8 years at Richmond and really kills it, for him to go back into the senior coaching role. Because when you're away from something and you take a drop down and you take your medicine and you go back and acquit yourself, I think it's a lot of things. Now, I want to misspell a few myths. A lot of people don't like Voss and they reckon Port don't rate him. That all stems from Cooky in 2019 when he interviewed for the Carlton job. And he did the famous quote, you know, if he doesn't want to be here, we don't want him. And Hinckley was very quick to say, that's Cooky being Cooky. We value him a lot. Carlton's loss is our gain. He hasn't taken the job. He's an integral part. You look at Ollie Wines talking about how he leads the leadership group, how he's also a central part of midfield and their tactics. And you look at what Vossy's done at Port, and you look particularly at their midfield numbers when they had them, and you look at the success they had. Yes, they haven't quite got into the finals, but there's a lot of avenues there, and it's kind of like the Chris Scott argument. Same players let them down in finals all the time. Yes, that's partly down to the coaching, but that's also down to the players. And some people just aren't fit for finals. And I think what Vossy has learned in these 8 years is a hell of a lot. He comes here as a very experienced senior assistant coach. He's been in and around the grind. We know he expects standards. You know that when you look through interviews of Butters, Rosie, Dersma, Ollie Wines, these guys all rave about him, and they all have done before he was even linked with a job. Ollie Wines just after the Brownlow saying that we really hope he finds a senior coach job because he deserves it and he's ready to go. And you've got to look at, I always think, these type of conversations. If they're having them type of conversations and they're really confident in it, for me, that's a good thing. Because genuinely, champions appreciate champions, and that is a good thing. Now, it's okay that we can talk about Brisbane and we can talk about the time there and it failed and stuff, but I always look at it this way. 8 years ago, are you the same person you are today? If the decisions you got wrong 8 years ago, if you wouldn't do something different now, hindsight is the mother of all learning. There's probably something wrong with you. And I'd imagine listening to Michael Voss speak, knowing what he's like as a character in the terms of that he is a champion, he is a winner, nothing's too tough. This has probably eaten away at him for 8 years, biting the bullet, being someone's assistant, and seeing it unfold, and probably going to bed every night, lying awake and thinking, God, if I knew this now, it wouldn't have been a shit show at Brisbane. So I'm really confident we've got the right people. I also think with the money saved as well, we're going to probably get a better array of assistants. And when you look at Melbourne, Choco Williams came in. You look at Brisbane, you look at Richmond in 2016, they had a huge assistant clear out. Seems to be a regular pattern that the good teams make backroom changes. that do it. Because I think everyone can agree now T can't coach as a head coach yet. And I'll add that caveat yet. He may do in the future. But I think when you look at the assistants that have worked, Dimmer, Beveridge, they genuinely have something in common. They are on the tactical committee. They are in that tactical mindset. Because genuinely that is the huge difference between being a head coach and a normal coach. It's you are in charge of game day tactics. And we know Vossy, as a captain, as an on-baller, he will have that naturally. And obviously, as you can see, the way Brisbane move offensively, I think it's very similar to how Carlton move when they've gone well. Defensive setup has been the issue. You look at the work around the ball at Port, it is exceptional the way they rove to Scott Lycett, the way they set defensively in transition, the way they create space on the ball for their runners. And that's three departments that Carlton haven't got Scooby-Doo at the moment. So it's too early to call if it's a success. My gut says it is, and I'll tell you why that I just think it's really counterproductive being negative. I understand that we've been here before, so have I. Jesus, I've been before you guys and girls in front of the camera, seeing Rome burn down in front of my very eyes, through teared eyes. I just don't see, I don't see the energy in being negative. I really don't. I think for anything to work, it needs a full buy-in, and I feel it's my responsibility to buy in, as it always is. And, you know, as long as we hold them to account, and if we do go 0-8 at the bye, we've got our pitchforks out and we're throwing freaking petrol bombs, that's fine. But that is what you've got to do. You've got to hold the club into account. Obviously, don't throw petrol bombs. It's not cool, unless it's on COD. And then I think the big thing then after that is the trade and draft period. I think that is really important. I think the two things we have to nail now as a football club, our backroom staff, hopefully that's someone like Lappin, and we bring in a bit more experience, Power reigning assistant of the year, so we've got a good little base to go with. And then it's the trade period. And obviously, you know, it looks like Cherry's coming, it looks like Hewitt's coming. If we can pick up a few project players, I think, in the draft, particularly a key defender, so we're not panic buying when Liam Jones goes. I think that'll be a bit of a dub. We've added a bit of creativity. We're obviously hoping that we can mix and match, and then it'll probably leave us with some second and third picks. That is traditionally where you find these small forwards, because I still think we lack an out-wide player, particularly a proper small player, particularly somebody who can play on the wing, and that's genuinely where you find them in them 30s. So it'd be interesting to see what we do this trade period. But we nail that. I'm really confident moving forward that the club has made the right decision, because one thing that's impressed me is they've done a process. They've fought the media. They've stuck to their guns on this one. And whether you agree or not, you've got to admit the club has operated totally different to what we always do. And that is pander to the media. So I'm really excited moving forward. So let's have a conversation in the comments. Let me know what you think. Where do you think Carlton are going to finish next year? What are you hoping to see? And until next time, Pommy out.